It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right. Audio is working good this week. The election is over. What's up, everybody? Don Tony here. What is it, the 10th of November? Wow, we're about 3 weeks, no, not even, 2.5 weeks away from Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Survivor Series, Xavier Woods turns on a new day. We got a lot of shit coming up. Hope everyone is having a good week. I want to welcome you to this latest edition of The Sit Down, hosted by yours truly, Don Tony. Thank you, as always, for supporting what I do, supporting what Kevin and I do in our 20th year, not consecutively, kind of like the presidency, right? 20 years, unbelievable. And 2025 is right around the corner. I tell you, what an interesting year so far. This is not about reminiscing, guys. We're going to talk about everything that's going on today. Well, you guys dictate. Everybody who's live dictates what we talk about. Well, I hope everybody is doing okay after this election. I mean, I'm sure that discussion will be a little bit later on in the show. I have some overall thoughts. Somebody made an offer I can't refuse to comment a little bit about the election. One thing I do want to say, if you check out last week's stream, not one of the more viewed streams, and I noticed in the description of the show, I really went out of my way to commend all of you who joined me last week when we did talk about the election. Talked about it fair, both sides. I didn't vote for Trump or Harris. And I commended all of you for having a cool environment. Those who despise Trump, had straight up nice conversations with those who do support him, and vice versa with Harris. And then I realized that's not the popular way to go right now. It's either be toxic, take a side and be vicious to the other, or nobody wants really the kumbaya stuff. So I get it. But the bottom line is we had some good vibes last week, and I give props to everybody who joined me. That was refreshing. Shows you that there's a little bit of, sanity left amongst many of you out there. Shout out to Austin Nance, who's our great moderator here, who's also been a member of the family 3 years, 3 months, I believe. I might be even short. No, 3 years, 8 months. What am I saying? 44 months. A channel member. We've been doing it that long. It's amazing how time flies, man. It's amazing. So, bottom line is, I hope everybody's doing okay, no matter which side you're on. We'll comment about it later on, but we want to talk about wrestling, obviously, because that is the number one topic on the shows that we do. Don't forget, tomorrow night, right after Raw, Kevin and I will be live for your latest edition of the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle Show. It'll be live in our Discord channel, and hope you could join us live. Fun vibes always, especially the live streams. The chat is very, very cool. Just good stuff, everybody, good stuff. So, I think the big topic everybody has been talking about, there is something a little bit later that I am concerned about with Trump being president. I almost forgot about her. I'll tell you a little bit later, something that really concerns me a little bit. But, and trust me, you want to hear this. Everybody is talking the last couple of days in the world of professional wrestling. I mean, you couldn't escape it. No matter where you went. I mean, even Dustin Rhodes had to comment about it. Like, all these people going out of their way. It's such a big, big topic. No, not the Women's United States Championship that's being launched. And, hey, give this guy a little credit. We were the first people to say that the Raw Intercontinental Women's Championship is right around the corner. Yeah, that's coming soon. And the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships will be back soon as well. Men and women will have the same number of titles for the most part, equal on both sides. For those that say it's too many titles, hey, yeah, this is the world we live in. At least those who hold the belts, especially in WWE, you feel like they've kind of earned it, that they're not being done for an advertising prop for a TV deal like Ring of Honor and other stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. Jericho is a champion, a little bit past his prime, but, a lot of those belts put on some people are basically props to make the perception of their value look bigger than what they are. Especially when you see a lot of people getting championships within the first month of their arrival, the bigger names. So, but anyway, what has everybody been talking about? Cocaine. Unbelievable. I mean, we're rehashing Cocaine, the wrestler that actually takes out a plastic bag with baby powder and opens it and puts it all over his face. AEW, people getting upset at that after somebody fucking stuck a syringe in somebody's neck or mouth or whatever it was on a pay-per-view. Shut up. Cocaine? You only learn about it? I can't say the word on this show, but when I saw all the outrage about the wrestler Cocaine in 2024, made me think back over, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. There's a wrestler on the indie circuit who you now know as the Soul Taker. The Soul Taker. And go look up his name a little more than a dozen years ago. Let's just say, who is that wrestler in TNA that slept with Kurt Angle? Trinisha Biggers. Let's use her last name in the wrestler's name. He was called the Bigger Taker. Well, look him up. I don't remember the social media outrage when that was around. And there's others. Roxy Cotton, who I actually worked a couple of shows with. She was a sweetheart. And there's been others with drug references. I mean, I know that's not a drug reference, but I mean, come on. Save your bullshit outrage. Give me a fucking break. But I tell you, for me, the last couple of days, I nodded my head in once again, the bullshit going on, especially with the Malachi Black stuff. I don't know how many times it has to happen, because this does have to do with politics. When people say that politics is similar to wrestling, oh, it is so true. It is so true. And I'll give you a good example about it. I feel bad for a lot of people in and around wrestling who don't follow politics all that much and relied on news sites and news pundits and big YouTubers to give them accurate information. And I'll give you an example. Now, remember, I didn't vote for Harris or for Trump. I voted for my local political people running for re-election and election, but I didn't vote for either one of them. I just felt that, listen, I hope Trump does great, but I just felt neither one impressed me going into the election. But I'll say this. There's a particular YouTuber, and especially if you're anti-Trump, you know who I'm talking about. I don't know his name offhand. I'm not going to bother looking. But to cover up for about 2 months, he gave all of these bullshit claims about Trump as to why you should vote for Kamala. And, obviously, as people started to educate themselves, they started to find out that a lot of the stuff that we're saying was incorrect. Just talking points. This isn't a pro-Trump thing, but I make my point. So now, with the election over, a lot of these big YouTubers, and go search it if you want to laugh, they're all crying because they're losing viewers, subscribers in droves. One guy lost over 10,000 subscribers. One guy lost 5,000. One guy lost 15,000. And what does that tell you? That tells you that a lot of people who wanted honest, legit answers go to these people expecting to be given straight up honest facts. Now they realize they've been lied to and they unsubscribe. And then as far as wrestling goes, you look at the Malachi Black story. I take pride. If you check out my daily news update from Thursday or Friday, when we talked about Dynamite, I didn't even put his name in the synopsis, but we talked about the hug with him and Adam Cole. And, I said, the last time the wrestling media clickbaited on Malachi Black, he was very upset. And he almost begged the wrestling. I remember he was in his car. He almost begged the wrestling media world, hey, listen, please, out of respect, don't assume, don't guess this, And what did they do this week? Go on YouTube and just type in Malachi Black's name and go search over the last 7 days. A lot of you out there that go to the same people hoping to get an honest answer. What's going on with Malachi Black? Is he retiring? Is he taking time off? Is he leaving AEW? And they did to you exactly what people do in the political world. They showed no respect for Malachi Black. He had to come up with another video this week and pretty much say, fuck you. Again, I'm not leaving. I'm not retiring. I'm not taking time off. What the fuck? It goes in one ear and out the other. So believe me, wrestling media, I know my channel is not as big as others because we keep things straight up. But as people are losing in droves subscribers because they were lying to people about the election and a lot of incorrect facts, it's going to happen in the wrestling news world as well. Now, as far as the women's United States Championship goes, I don't know if the audio cut off before when I'm pretty sure it didn't. So, but I'll say it again. I personally think that, I don't, in this day and age, especially what went on with the WWE the last 3 or 4 years, I don't mind a couple of extra championships as long as the people that are holding them have earned it. Like, I'll give you an example. This super chat came in before we went live. And, I wonder how many of you feel how I feel. Police Squad sent in, who would I want to become the first ever Women's United States champion? And for me, first name that comes to the top of my head is Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green, I would love to see her become a champion. Problem is, Liv Morgan has the stranglehold and she's still consumed with Rhea Ripley, who now is on hiatus because of injury. And they're not taking the belt off of Liv Morgan in the meantime and revisit that. And then you look on SmackDown and Nia Jax has been kind of having a stranglehold, but people want to see Naomi win the belt. And then Tiffany Stratton's got to cash in and she's going to win a belt. And you're like, okay, where does that leave the Chelsea Greens? Where does that leave the Meachins? Well, you get the Speed title. You see where I'm going with this? I know my channel is not big. If we did more content online, if one day it demands it, I will put more content online. But some of you may still remember this. Remember when they were going to sort of unify the undisputed WWE, the undisputed championship and the WWE championship. Roman only had one title at the time, and then we were going to have a match where both titles were on the line. So you may remember a thumbnail that I put online, and it's still online, and I wrote, "Be careful what you wish for." And I put Bobby Lashley, I think Kofi Kingston, and someone else in the corner of the picture. And listen, at the time, this was during COVID, so understand at that time, Bobby Lashley was pretty hot. This is not praise or criticize. I'm just remember the time frame and you understand why certain names were on the banner. But the reason why I said that was, for everyone that thinks it's a spectacular idea, be careful what you wish for. Because if Roman Reigns has 2 titles and they have him go on a extended long run, that shuts out everybody. It shuts out every heavyweight on that roster. There was no World Heavyweight Championship on Raw at the time. There was none for 2-3 years? So everybody that had momentum, there was no breakthrough. Sami Zayn wasn't getting a heavyweight championship those couple of years. Kevin Owens wasn't getting a heavyweight championship. Seth Rollins wasn't getting it. A whole bunch of people weren't getting it. And you know what happens? Some people's momentum came and then it went. And probably the case of Bobby Lashley, that might be a good example of it. So my point is, if you're going to have Gunther go on a long-ass run, it's good to have an Intercontinental Championship. If you're going to have Cody Rhodes go a year plus because you want to legitimize his run so people don't feel like it was, a failure, which some people still think, which I think is ridiculous, the United States Championship is a great idea. Same thing for the women. You look at the Women's Championship on SmackDown, it feels like Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton. People want to see Naomi. So where does that leave everybody else? Chelsea Green ever get a championship? What does she have to do? Buy it from fucking Ringside Collectibles? Is that how she gets a title? She calls Brian Myers, Matt Cardona, "Hey, you got a championship in your figure store?" So I like the idea of the United States Women's Championship. I like the idea of the Intercontinental Women's Championship because there are enough women there who are not going to break through when the time is right. Sometimes momentum is everything, and you can't put momentum on hold. Daniel Bryan with the Yes Movement was the greatest example of all time because the Yes Movement came at a time where they could put the belt on him. If that fucking Yes Movement would have came in the middle of Roman Reigns' record reign for this generation, Bryan Danielson's momentum would have came and went. They wouldn't have diverted. You're not going to divert the whole bloodline thing because somebody caught fire. So having that championship for the women helps some of the women who are deserving, who are on some momentum, and now you can reward that momentum. You look at the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, that's definitely coming back. I don't need to be a journalist to tell you that. If you haven't noticed, WWE has been working on the women's tag team division again. Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, even though Roxanne still has the title, she's probably not going to be a double champion, but still, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. You'll get Jakara Jackson and Last Legend. You look at Julia and Stephanie Vaquer. And then there's others that you could put together. Hell, for a little while, some people thought Rosemary and Wendy Chu, if there was women's tag. So you see, they are quietly rebuilding the women's tag team division. Bring those titles back. So I'm fine with the additional titles because perception is everything. Back in the day, you had the hardcore title. You had the European title. At some point, we had the light heavyweight title. We had a decent number of titles back then. It's just that those who are holding them, they were good. And the title runs were decent. So people didn't complain. So for me, my pick, Chelsea Green. Will she be the first? I have no idea. But I would love for her to get it. It took me a while to buy in on Chelsea Green. I mean, I've been bought in for a while, but, when she first came in, I remember Halloween last year with the pumpkin. I was like, oh my God, her acting is awful. It's like Vince McMahon fake. Like that's something I could see Vince McMahon in the back. And we're all like, oh, that's god awful stupid. But she put it together, man. She won me over. Definitely would love to see you get that belt. So that's who I would go with. Bob the Builder is asking, thank you very much, Bob, for that super chat. How long do I think CM Punk's WWE run lasts? As long as he wants. I mean, if CM Punk, this is really, I hate using real names, but if this is really Phil Brooks, grown up now, learned, a little bit of a life lesson in AEW, married, at peace, sees that the wrestling world is not what it was 10 years ago. Even if he were to get injured again and it was career threatening, that guy has a future as a coach in NXT. Hell, if Shawn Michaels ever retires, I could see CM Punk doing what Shawn Michaels is doing right now. CM Punk is great on the mic, great on commentary. They ever go old school and start bringing back managers, not now, but I'm saying 10, 20 years from now, I can see CM Punk leading a faction as a manager. CM Punk, as long as he has the right attitude, he's got a job there for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. And I don't think anybody would dispute that. And listen, I'm still blocked from CM Punk. Kevin and I had a lot of criticism towards CM Punk back in the day. Remember, we were on that UFC documentary. They contacted us. They said, we have 5 clips from some episodes that you two did, and we'd like for you to pick one clip that we could use on our documentary. And I said, sure. And we went through it, and we picked the one we chose, and we were on that documentary. A lot of people seem to forget about that. So there was a time where I criticized CM Punk big. So you could be honest now that, my thoughts on CM Punk have always been genuine. There were times where I couldn't stand him, just like JBL. JBL, I despised when he used to wrestle, even when he was doing the oil tycoon thing, when he did that goose step. I mean, what he did to Blue Meanie at the time, I freaking hated that guy. Now, for years, I've enjoyed JBL. I don't agree on every single bit of his political views, but I'm a fan. Been that way for a while. I think close to ever since Joey Styles went at it with him. I think right after that is when I started to, feel different about JBL. I agree, Roderick. Seems like Punk has mellowed out lately. Definitely mellowed out. I think he's just grown up. I think he is just grown up and realized that his wrestling career doesn't have many years left. Enjoy it while you can, because just like that, it could be over. And you don't want to, what shoulda, woulda, coulda. So I think truly he has grown up a little bit. Will Viral Stewart, my thoughts on Jim Cornette. Do I like his podcast? He donated 5 G's to Dutch Mantel. His co-host, Dutch Mantel's co-host on his podcast, said, Dutch Mantel's co-host said that Jim Cornette donated 5,000. Listen, Dutch Mantel, his podcasts and the person, you got to separate it. I am aware of what Dave Meltzer wrote in his newsletter. If any of you that don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. I don't have it in front of me. If I bring it in front of me, I'll get mad. I'll probably start farting and cursing out a little bit. I mean, I want to continue supporting Dave Meltzer, but he makes it so hard sometimes. He basically, I'll just sum it up. Dutch Mantel's been very critical about AEW. And Tony Khan donated, I think, $5,000 also. Maybe even $10,000. I don't know how much he donated, but Tony Khan made a generous donation. And Meltzer wrote in his newsletter that basically, despite Dutch Mantel criticizing AEW, Tony Khan, and everything else, Tony Khan still donated money to Dutch Mantel. And it's like, I could see if a young wrestling fan whack job going to that extreme to say that, but to have a journalist 40 plus years in the business to take a guy who is seriously dealing with some major health issues and bringing up his views about a wrestling company and to try to make, Tony Khan look like, oh, even though Tony Khan's been criticized and made fun of and spit on, he still donated money to help Dutch Mantel. It's like, it's just fucked up. Oh, thank you. Will Varus says Tony Khan donated 5 Gs. My honest take on all of it is this. A lot of these wrestling podcasts make 6 digits. So when they donate thousands to their friend, they could swing it. It's a tax write-off. So it's very generous. You'd be surprised when you get a bunch of people that could put some donations together that could go a long way. It's not just Dutch Mantel, it's his wife also who's dealing with health issues. Jim Cornette, even though I think he is bizarre with his political views at times, I truly, truly believe deep down inside in his heart, he loves professional wrestling. He loves those who paved the way. He loves his friends. I think deep down inside, even those that he has political differences with, he cares. And, I'm not going to lie. I have tuned out of his podcast. I tune in now about maybe a quarter of what I used to. Because some of the stuff is just repetitive and the political stuff is just bizarre. But to be fair, his political clips are separate. So you don't have to tune in on a YouTube clip if you don't want to. It's not like, listen, there's a certain podcast out there with multiple people on it that I have a fondness for one of the hosts in particular. But if you haven't figured it out yet, you click on their clips on YouTube and it'll say like so-and-so talks about, Commander versus Leo Rush. And then you tune into it. It's a 7-minute clip. And Commander and Leo Rush is like the last 15 seconds of it. What'd you think of the match? I thought it was good. And then it just cuts off. But meanwhile, you're like, wait, 90% of the clip had nothing to do with the match. I'm sure you can figure out what I'm talking about. Listen. I commend those who went out of their way for Dutch Mantel. I will say this, though. Some of those very same people who claim to watch wrestling on a weekly basis knew nothing about Chris Bay. And, when they talked about Chris Bay's injury, it was, accidents happen. Hope he's okay. And that was it. Move on. So it goes to show you that for some people, they're there for their friends. And for others, it's like, hey, shit happens. And that's just the God honest truth. I don't like comparing donations. I think it's wrong because you don't know at the end of the day what some people are facing with expenses. That's one of the reasons why the election went the way it did. Again, I didn't vote for either one. I haven't supported Trump in years. When Kevin and I did a discussion last Monday and we were honest and we thought who was going to win, we both said Trump by a landslide. And when we were asked why, one thing I said was everyday people, the majority of them are hurting financially big time. When you get political, and this is why, this is not going to transition to politics, but I'll use the example when it comes to like donations with wrestlers. When you go to a lot of these YouTubers or you go to major news sites, it's very easy for somebody to tell you that, inflation is down to 1.9%. When Trump left office, it was 1.09 or something like that, and it rose to almost 9% 2 years ago. Now it's down to a little under 2. So when you hear that, like, the economy's doing great, inflation's only 1.9%. What you don't hear is, how come I'm still spending $575 at the grocery store where a couple of years ago I only spent $300? I know that's an extreme example, but just because inflation goes down doesn't mean the prices go down. I was going to say this before, there's a certain YouTuber who lost about 15,000 subscribers. And instead of just realizing, hey, I kind of fucked up, given a lot of misinformation that he got from others, he doubled down on it. And he's like, I saw a whole bunch of people at a Trump rally saying, how come you're voting for Trump? Well, because gas prices are too high. And the guy goes on to say, listen, jerk-offs, the gas is lower now than what it was when Biden took office. And this guy went on this whole rant about gas price and the economy. All you got to do is a Google search and go back to the companies that regulate oil. And you'll find that in November of 2020, gas prices were on average with $2.09 a gallon. Gas price in November of 2024 is $2.93 a gallon, and that's average. So when you hear that, again, everything sounds appealing, but at the end of the day, people are fucking hurting big time. I'm $40,000 in debt on my credit cards. And yes, I got married. I charged a lot of the ceremony and expenses and everything, and now I can't keep up with the interest. I mean, that's just the facts. And slowly I'm bringing it down. It was 60,000. I mean, I'm working to try to pay bills, but you go to a store, and I've talked about this before. When you go to a store and you're paying $15 a pound for cheese, I know the easy answer, well, don't buy cheese then. The problem is when you see that everything is still extremely expensive, you could say until you're blue in the face, inflation is down, the economy is better. For most people out there, no, it's not. And, that's why I don't like taking donations, specific ones, and saying, Jericho donated more than so-and-so. There's a lot of people who donate anonymously because they don't want to get caught into that shit. Sometimes you'll see a 10G donation come in, and you're like, oh shit, it was anonymous. Who the fuck would keep their name silent? I'll tell you who keep their name silent. Someone who doesn't want to be compared to others with their donations. So the bottom line is, good for all of them going out of their way for Dutch Mantel and for those who are helping Chris Bay as well. That's really all I have to say about that. So it's not price gouging, Chuckos. It's not price gouging. Go on Instacart, go on Amazon Fresh, go on Stop and Shop, go on Walmart, go everywhere and look. It ain't price gouging. It's not like you walk into a bodega, 20, 30 years ago. I tell you a really funny story, and it's legit. About 30 years ago, me and my friends went to a club. It was like 2:00 in the morning. And we were halfway home. We were on the highway, and my friend says, I got to take a shit. And we were like, where are we going to go? He's like, pull over. There's got to be a diner or something, a gas station where I can use the bathroom. So we get off the highway, and we're in some bad neighborhood. I don't remember where it was. I think it was off Francis Lewis Boulevard in Jamaica, Queens. And there's a little bodega open. So my friend goes inside, and we went inside also and get a pack of cigarettes, whatever it was I smoked at the time. And I remember my friend asking him, can I use the bathroom? Oh, no, bathroom out of water. It's like, fuck. So he says, give me a roll of toilet paper. So my friend wanted to take a shit like in the corner, and he bought a roll of toilet paper. But one roll of toilet paper was like $3. And it's that Charmin 1,000-sheet one-ply that's like sandpaper on your ass. I remember the story because we were laughing because he was taking a dump and he opens up this paper roll of Charmin, paid like $3 for it, where I think at the time might have been 35 cents. That's price gouging. When Hurricane Superstorm Sandy hit and you go to look for a tank of gas and it's $5.50 a gallon, that's price gouging. When you go everywhere and the price is pretty much the same, that's not price gouging. Let's see. Roddy, when does Tiffany Stratton cash in? He thinks it would be a great angle for Saturday night's main event. I said on Thursday or Friday, no, it was Friday's report. I said that I think I'd like to see Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns battle it out at Saturday night's main event. Here's the only problem. Saturday night's main event, it's happening at the Nassau Coliseum. As of right now, it looks like I'm going to be going. It's not a pay-per-view. The ticket prices are not bad compared to what people have been saying online. It's not a premium live event. It's not a pay-per-view. It's prime time television, but it's not the moneymaker that a premium live event would be. How many big moments are you going to do on a Saturday night's main event? I think the cash-in would be great for Saturday night's main event. I'm not sure how many things you're going to do. So if Tiffany cashing in and Roman versus Solo are the two biggest things to happen on Saturday night's main event, maybe a heel turn also, then I'm fine with that. Anybody remember the date for Saturday night's main event? I don't want to dare open my browser and fuck up the audio. I'm curious how far Saturday night's main event is past the Monday after Survivor Series. If someone could double check the date. If it's like the following Saturday, December 14th. Thank you, 316 MMA. December 14th. The New Day 10-year celebration, as we already covered, the tentative date is the Monday after Survivor Series. Could they possibly do it for Saturday night's main event? Possible. You know why? Well, no. I'll tell you why I don't like it. Because the storyline with Adam Pearce is that he's going to do a special Raw paying tribute. So I think you got to have the Xavier Woods turn the same night as the celebration. Some of the most memorable turns and attacks have been the same night of a celebration. You could go back to 85 when they were honoring Captain Lou Albano in Madison Square Garden and Roddy Piper smashed the record over his head. You could do lots of celebrations. My God, how many weddings got interrupted on WWE television? Did somebody say 3 minutes? There's so many. So I don't think you do the celebration and you do the turn a different day. I think that would be stupid. So yeah, Tiffany cashing in Saturday night's main event is not a bad idea at all. And let me tell you something. She would get cheered big. She would get cheered big in New York if she cashed in. The only question is, who does she cash in against? Tristan, my thoughts on when Mae Young gave birth to a hand. I thought it was stupid. Hated it. It was funny stupid. It wasn't even like dopey funny stupid. It was just, who the fuck came up with that? It was as bad as Katie Vick. It was as bad as, a lot of people forget this. Didn't who gave birth to Jim? What was it? Jim Ross's head? Was it Triple H or Vince McMahon? Who was? I think it was Triple H. Was it right? Gave birth to Jim Ross's head or something like that. I remember we did a picture of it recently. There's been some pretty bizarre ones, so didn't like it. Bobby Means, what's up, man? A year and 2 months as a channel member, made member of the family. Much love. Much love. Who do I put the women's US title on? He thinks Meechin should get it. I said earlier Chelsea Green. I'd like to see Chelsea Green be the first one to get it. I just hope Tiffany Stratton, just thought of something. Do you dare think, I'm going to throw a wild scenario out there that I know no one has thought about yet. I'm going to throw it out there now just because we like doing that. How would you feel if they crowned a new first ever Women's United States champion and Tiffany Stratton cashed in the same night and won it? Can you imagine if Naomi became, let's be honest for a minute, I'm going to say something that's going to trigger some people. I don't give a fuck. Can you imagine if Naomi became the first ever Women's United States champion and Tiffany Stratton cashed in the same night and beat her for it? Could you just picture some of that IWC reaction, if you know what I'm talking about? Whoa! Talk about gasoline in the fire. Take that salami, just shove it right up her ass. Oh, my God. If that happens, I'll take that Bray Wyatt tribute behind me and I'll replace it with this Evil Uno figure. That ain't happening. Mark Pics is asking, what was my expectations of Taz when he made his debut in the WWF? Legit. I, being a lifelong ECW fan, was concerned when Taz was leaving to go to the WWE. The thing is, though, is what was cheesier was when Taz lost the championship. I remember it was a pay-per-view for ECW, and he went up the rampway. You see all these ECW wrestlers clapping, and Taz is choking up, almost crying. And I know there's a reality part of it, but we were like, oh, man, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that real emotion on my TV. I just want Taz to go out, this human suplex machine. They did the kind of shoot fighting stuff with him. Remember Paul Varlins, that debacle? But I was into Taz. Definitely felt he was legit. When he showed up, what was it, King of the Ring? Was that what it was? I think it was King of the Ring, right? When he showed up and choked out Kurt Angle, I'm telling you guys, I know WrestleMania shit and all these, what culture garbage. They try to rewrite history. I'm telling you guys, nobody at the time called our hotline. Nobody at the time went online in the Prodigy chats and Instant Messenger. Royal Rumble, thank you. I knew it was one of the big ones. Royal Rumble. I swear to you, and no one went online like, I can't believe they jobbed out Kurt Angle like that. What the fuck, man? How do you job Kurt Angle like that? Taz, he comes in his first match. Nobody did that. Fucking everybody popped. Everybody popped because Taz hit the Taz mission unexpectedly, choked out Kurt Angle. Didn't hurt Kurt Angle's career one bit. Unfortunately, we realized very quickly how WWE truly felt about Taz. I'm not saying that they didn't like him. I'm not saying that they were trying to mock him, but you realize quickly that WWF was here to them, WCW was here to them, and ECW was down here to the WWF, bigwigs, management, the top tier wrestlers. And when Mike Awesome left to go to WCW, and I'll be quick with this. When Mike Awesome left to go to WCW, he was still the ECW champion. The worry was that Mike Awesome was going to show up on Nitro and throw the ECW title in the trash. So what happened was Paul Heyman was not going to sue because even though his family had lawyers and, Todd Gordon had good lawyers and stuff like that, that would take years for what? So they were able to rectify it in a way that at an ECW house show, Mike Awesome would show up. I think Doug Dillinger and WCW security were with him. He showed up from the back of the building, did the job, and left. And the thing is, at the time, I'm talking about at the time. I mean, we know the whole story now, but at the time, I don't think anybody in their wildest dreams ever thought Taz would show up because Taz was already in the WWE. So you had a WWE wrestler versus a WCW wrestler on an ECW event. And when his music hit, his WWE music, I mean, we still were like, oh, fuck. I remember we watched it on TV and were like dumbfounded. What the hell just happened? And that was cool. Until Triple H took on Taz on WWE television. Anybody remember that? I think it might have been a SmackDown. Taz took on Triple H on WWE TV. I think about a week after Taz won the championship. Guess who won that match? Or let me put it like this. Guess who didn't win that match? And then sure enough, right after that, Tommy Dreamer ended up getting a championship and, rest is history. But when Taz came in, we popped. It was a whole new crop of wrestlers. And WWE was not that far from the Monday Night Wars. So the WWE we were still digging it. But once Triple H came crossing the path of Taz and we saw what we got on TV, I was like, oh, fuck. And then the rest is history. It was on SmackDown. Thank you, Aaron. I remember it, man. When they announced that match, most of us were like, oh. Because remember, Triple H, the burial ground, that infamous photo. And by the way, I was in my old hard drive today. I posted a retro pic on our Twitter account, but I do have in his hard drive that infamous photo of Triple H in the graveyard. I'm going to put it in my computer this week, and I'll show you guys next week. This is a photo that's 20 some odd years old, but it was very, very powerful at the time. It reflected how we felt about Triple H on TV. You younger wrestling fans that were not watching WWE 20 years ago, be very, very grateful because the Triple H show at times was not fun. And that is one of the reasons why so many fans started tuning out. Yeah, be surprised. It may sound even ridiculous now. Yeah, be surprised at that time, man. All right. I don't want to answer Ronnie's election question yet. We'll save that a little bit later. Let's keep the wrestling topic going because I see that's what most of you want to talk about, and I'm cool with that. Definitely cool with that. Aaron says Vince McMahon regretted not putting Taz over. That's not true. That's not true. Nobody was going to overtake Triple H at that time. Nobody. Especially Taz coming from ECW. He was legit. He wrestled excellent. But still, the aura of ECW was still different. And even though Taz coming in, they knew that he wasn't one of those hardcore, junkie wrestlers, that the stereotype had, he still wasn't taken as seriously. he was too short. You know, he started getting out of shape later on, and then that's when the little jokes started coming, and he went commentating. I mean, look, Taz had some medical issues as well, but Taz, we realized quickly Taz was not going to be a major player there. Kevin Milwaukee says the Nick Wayne is starting to grow on him. He's got a cool theme, filling out his frame. He noticed he developed a new finisher, the Pedigree Canadian Destroyer. You know, it's interesting. I watched Friday night the IWC comparing pile drivers in AEW and how people sell it and don't sell it to Randy Orton and Kevin Owens' pile driver. I made this comparison on Friday. I don't know how many of you have heard it, but you see how WWE treated the pile driver. And I think the one clip that people were focusing on was Orange Cassidy taking a pile driver on steel steps. They were comparing them side by side. And I compared it to a horror movie. Some monsters, some psycho serial killers, at the end of the movie, somebody shoots them, they're dead. Or they fall out of a building, they're dead. Or they get stabbed, they're dead. Then you have horror films like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger and others that you could shoot them 100 times. They ain't dead. That's the difference between AEW and WWE. One, their finisher is kind of like that horror guy that, you know, it's like Randy Orton. He's like the horror guy at the end of the movie. He's shot. That's it. Movie over. And then you got Orange Cassidy taking a pile driver on his steel steps. That's Michael Myers. You look the other way, all of a sudden he's back on his feet. Do you imagine if he was a horror guy? Imagine him being like a serial killer in a horror movie. That motherfucker puts his hands in his pockets. He's about to kill someone and he goes like this. I'd take a machete and I go, woof, slice his arms right off. They dangle and his fingers are still in his pockets. Yeah, Kevin Owens did a pile driver on SmackDown. Haven't seen that in over 10 years on WWE television. Listen, these guys they're talented and protective enough that, how do I say this the right way? You see wrestlers taking bumps off the top of a cage onto something. Or they'll be in the back and they climb onto the top of a truck and dive onto something. Some of them will do a fucking swanton off of big heights. To me, that could go wrong just as much as a pile driver. And what I mean by that is if the wrestler executes it the right way, you know, the chances of getting hurt in a pile driver is very, very low. I mean, you look at the RKO out of nowheres. I mean, we haven't publicly seen the footage of Chris Bay yet, but that could have easily been Chris Bay jumping off a rope and eating an RKO out of nowhere. My point is that there are other moves in wrestling that are 10 times more risky than a pile driver. And the fact that WWE doesn't use pile drivers anymore is what made that so good on Friday. Because Kevin Owens did something that no one else would dare do. This was old school. I don't know if it was Memphis back in the day or AWA, where they banned the pile driver and then somebody would do a pile driver. You know what was funny? I don't remember who the wrestler was, and I don't expect anybody to remember this now, but I do remember back in the day, it might have been AWA, but I remember watching a wrestler come in and have a match. Oh, I know what it was. You were not allowed to, I think, clothesline anybody over the top rope. You weren't allowed to throw anybody over the top rope. I think that's what the move was. And a wrestler who had just come into the company threw a wrestler over the top rope. And the referee calls for the bell. And the wrestler is like, fuck did I do? Oh, you're not allowed to throw anybody over the top rope. It's banned here. So at that time, it looked like the wrestler was naive. Kevin Owens knew that it was banned. He did something that no one would dare to do. Here is the only problem, and I'm sure some of you have thought about this already. Here's the only problem that's starting to develop with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. You ready for this? If you're going to go this far, where Randy Orton is on a stretcher, he can't breathe, and he's got a neck injury, you kind of got to go the route of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. See, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre went, so I'm not picking my nose, by the way. I got a little cut over here earlier, and it's annoying the shit out of me. You can't see it. You can't see it, but it's there. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, they built so much hatred on TV that they had to do Hell in a Cell, and it had to be incredibly violent. The way they're pushing this feud with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, it has to turn incredibly violent, especially after what Kevin Owens did to Randy Orton. And you got to be careful because Drew McIntyre and CM Punk is one of the greatest matches in the last 15 years for WWE. And I say for WWE, not trying to compare them to any other company. You can't have some of these feuds get to that level of hatred because if the final payoff match isn't something like this, you know what I mean? Like two people want to truly kill each other. What are you going to do? Falls count anywhere? No holds barred? You know, you got to be a little, I'm not saying I don't want it, but you got to be careful how you push some of these feuds because suspension of disbelief. If I'm Randy Orton now, I want to cripple Kevin Owens. I want him to be in a vegetable like that guy that died recently that couldn't talk, that would be like this in a wheelchair, that couldn't even sip through a straw. I feel bad for the guy, but Randy Orton would want to destroy Kevin Owens. Sometimes you got to be a little careful with these feuds because it gets so good that the payoff match is like, okay, what payoff match do we use? Storyline, they want to kill each other and they're going to extreme lengths. The payoff has to be even bigger. No lines. I don't do drugs. Can't afford to do drugs. What are we, 9:10? That's it? Okay. I apologize about the first 2 minutes. You know, I swear to you, before I'm done with the show tonight, I'm uninstalling Microsoft Edge because that's what's causing the problem. You know, I do check my emails before I go live and everything, and the browser gets open and it's running in the background and it overtakes my sound card. I mean, as soon as I noticed today, I hit one button, refreshed it, and that's it, problem solved. But if you notice on Monday, we don't even have that problem because I don't go on the browsers at all. So that will not happen after today. I promise you that. YouTube Addict is asking a very, very personal question. And it's not even a super chat. But since I love having fun on these shows, I don't want anybody to feel like you got to pay to ask a question. I know for some other people, it's their livelihood. I get it. I mean, we got bills to pay too, but have I ever paid for sex? Yeah. When I was very, very young, in my late teens and early 20s, sure. Went to a couple of whorehouses, went to massage parlors, went to escorts. A lot of people know the stories. I told one in particular. I'll tell everybody a quick story. The College Point story, for those who keep record. This is growing up Don Tony. All right, we got no, you don't have to super chat it. No, I never have to do that. YouTube, I appreciate it, but you don't have to do that. Don't believe me, I mean that sincerely. But I'll tell you one of my better ones. if anybody lives in my neck of the woods, you've heard on the news lately about Roosevelt Avenue. They're trying to clean up all the prostitution. And there's a lot of trans on the streets also. Now, some of you may find that street familiar, even if you don't live in my neck of the woods, because that's where Kev Castle, my co-host, used to have Castle Heights, right by Roosevelt Avenue. So, back in the day, I used to date a Dominican chick, and her family lived right off of Roosevelt Avenue. And when we would go visit them at night, and we would go through Roosevelt Avenue, you'd see all these prostitutes walking around, and most of them were men. So they have massage parlors on College Point Boulevard. And there was one whorehouse in particular called P3's that my friend used to do maintenance for. It was a little condo. He would go there. He would like change light fixtures and install like an air conditioner, this and that. And believe it or not, no joke, I've told this story before. We went to a strip place called Honey's during the OJ chase. We went to a strip place called Honey's because a girl that worked at a whorehouse that me and my friends had gone to had worked as Honey's as a stripper. So we went during the day to see her dance. And while we're in the bar, it was the Knicks playoffs. And we're watching the Knicks game on TV. And then all of a sudden, we need to break we need to interrupt this game for special news. And it's the OJ chase. Anyway, years before that, on College Point Boulevard, they used to have massage parlors. And they were mostly Chinese women. And you would pay like, I don't know, $75. And you would get a great massage. And then after the massage is over, if you pay a few extra dollars, you get what they call happy ending. You want happy ending? So one time we went on I think it was a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, me and my friend Joe. And we're looking for a place to park. There's no place to park. So it was early in the morning. It was like maybe like 6 o'clock in the morning. And we had gone out and we wanted to go. So 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, we drive up, and you had to make an appointment, by the way, and we pull up and there's no place to park. So right next to where the place was a car repair shop, and it was closed. So I said, let me just park in their parking lot. So we park in the parking lot, we go inside the place, we get massages. And then after we're done, you want happy ending? So we got happy endings. And then we leave maybe an hour later. And I go outside and I got 4 flats. And the car repair place is open. So my car's all the way in the corner and it's got 4 flats. We walk up to it. I'm like, what the fuck? Now at that time, there was no cameras or anything like that. So I'll never forget it. This mechanic comes over. And I don't know if he was chewing on a toothpick or something, but he walks over and he's like, looks like you got 4 flats there. You want them fixed? And I looked at my friend Joey and I'm like, yeah, I guess. So while the guy's fixing the flats, my friend Joey says, they took the air out of your tires, right? And I'm like, well, probably. I'm like, but how do you know? He says, go watch what they're doing. The guy literally, I'm kidding you not, took the tires off my car. I had a Cutlass Supreme at the time. Took the tire off the car. And I don't know if any of you have ever had a tire flat fixed in a car place, but they take the tire off, they put it on a machine, it rolls around, and then the rim pops off. And then what they do is they'll put it in water and then with soapy water, and then they'll look to see if there's any foam coming out, and that's where they could spot the leak. So as we're watching him fix the flat, he takes the thing off the car. He doesn't take it off the rim, and he just puts the air thing on. And about 10 minutes later, all 4 of my flats were fixed. All they did was take the air out of them. They didn't slash them. There was no holes in my tires. I paid for 4 flats fixed, and all they did was fill them up with air. Couldn't say anything because I was wrong. My friend Joey was laughing at me. He's like, oh, that was an expensive blowjob. And I was like, oh, they shouldn't have parked there. But they took the air out of my tires while we were in the horn. For real. That is true story. I'll tell you one other one that could have turned into something but didn't. This is true story. I swear on my family, I'll never do another show if I'm lying. One time, I was driving on Roosevelt Avenue. I was not dating this girl at the time. I don't remember what I was doing, but it was I think I actually, because I used to be big time into my boom boxes and everything. I think I had gone to a music store right off Roosevelt Avenue. It was on a Saturday night, maybe like 7, 8 o'clock. And I was buying something. And I was on Roosevelt Avenue and there was a lot of traffic. So I go on a side street and, just to try to get away from the traffic. And I had a beeper at the time and somebody beeped me. So I pulled over because I had a beeper and I did have a cell phone, but at that time you had to be very careful how much you use your cell phone because cell phones were like, I don't know, $30 for like 30 minutes. And then it's like $1.35 a minute after. So you could literally use up all your minutes in one day. So I remember pulling over to the side and I'm on my cell phone and my door opens up and it's one of these trans prostitutes. And he gets in the car and he looks at me and I'm looking at him and he thought that I was there to pick him up. So he's like, go. I'm like, go where? And he's like, wait, I'm like, no, I'm making a phone call. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he got out of the car. But that was crazy, man. I was literally pulled over, just making a phone call on my flip phone. And my door opens up. I look over and there's a prostitute sitting next to me. Even if it was a girl, even if it was hot, even if she was naked, I was not, no. I mean, you got to understand something. And listen, you're talking over 30 years ago, me going. This is over 30 years ago. So this is 35 years ago. Understand this. Back when and we didn't do it often. I might have went to pay for escorts maybe like 6 times in my life, which I'm not proud of. Funny stories nonetheless. But, we always found these places in Screw Magazine. I don't know if anybody ever heard of Screw Magazine before. The guy that owned, I think, Hustler owned Screw Magazine. Wrestling used to be advertised in Screw Magazine. There's an ECW connection with Screw Magazine. I don't remember what it was, but back in the 90s, ECW, there was an ad in there during Screw Magazine, but we would look in Screw Magazine and you would find all the escorts from there. And so we always made an appointment, went to a place that was a little bit more upscale. And, that's that. So I didn't lock the car door. I mean, at that time, we didn't have automatic door locks or anything like that. Jeff, I've told the College Point story before. Kevin says that would be funny if WWE set up a spot to write letters to Randy Orton for the neck injury. Just like when they did with Hulk and Earthquake. Listen, I'll reveal something. You'll call me an idiot because for a day or two, I honestly thought it was real. The last time that I got worked with an injury angle was in the 90s, believe it or not. So I'm in my mid-20s. This is not like, early 80s and I'm 10 years old. In the mid-90s, somebody got injured and I was friends with Georgie Amacropolis. God rest her soul. Georgie, beautiful woman. She helped me with the Conan drive. She was, the person who did the fan clubs for so many legends, just very close with Bruno at the time. Georgie Amacropolis, beloved by the wrestling world at the time. So I was friends with her from the 90s. And we're watching WWE television. And Dan Severn gets injured. And Dan Severn is put on a stretcher and he's out with the neck brace. So Georgianne, who was doing, I don't know if she was doing onewrestling.com at the time, but she was doing something. I don't think it was Wrestling Figs. I think it was still onewrestling.com or something. So she writes on there, if you want to send well wishes to Dan Severn. So me, like an idiot, I thought Georgie was telling the truth. So I got Dan Severn's email from the website, and I emailed him. And he had an AOL email address at the time. And I said, listen, I saw what happened on TV. I hope you're okay. Love your work. I'm not a fan of MMA stuff, but, I'm a fan of what you do. Get well soon. He emails me back. He says, I appreciate it. So like a day or two later, I was talking to Georgie online, and I said, Georgie, I emailed Dan. I said, I was thinking maybe send him a get well card or something. And she just puts a big smiley face. I don't think we had emojis at the time, but she put a big smiley face in the message back. And I said, what? And she's like, he's not really injured. And I'm like, are you serious? She's like, yeah. I said, well, you wrote that on the website? She's like, of course I wrote it on the website because we play along. That was the last time I legitimately got worked. Even when Ric Flair faked the heart attack on Nitro, didn't believe it for a second. Because my first reaction was they would go to commercial break or they would pan the cameras away. After that happened with Dan Severn, I was like, never got fooled ever again. But I'll be honest to tell you, I actually got fooled about Dan Severn's injury for real. The only other time that I came close, but I knew the reality of it, was when Pitbull Gary Wolf had the halo on an ECW. Now, let me tell you something. Pitbull Gary Wolf probably will never see this clip, but I don't talk about charity things we've done in the past because some people they hear good stories and they try to turn it into something negative. But when I did the drive for You Know Who, and Gary Wolf is still alive, so if you don't believe me, you could ask him. Gary Wolf was one of the first people to step up to me and say, look, I got a whole bunch of ECW and wrestling stuff. Give me an address. I'll send it over, auction it off, and whatever you make, give it to You Know Who. And, I was really, really appreciative. I mean, he sent me a couple of things, but, we were really focused more on cash because, like, if I start doing auctions and I got to ship them out and, not easy. But that guy never got the love. Him, April Hunter, there's a lot of names that I could tell you who really stepped up and wanted to help for that drive that, I never said publicly because, you don't want to just like start name dropping people. But like I said before, there's a lot of people do some very good things and don't ever tell anybody. But when Pitbull Gary Wolf had the halo on and they did what they did with Shane Douglas got nuclear heat in ECW. And it was so good because Joey Styles' reaction on commentary was, if you thought Michael Cole's reaction on SmackDown with Randy Orton was good, Joey Styles made a sound like if you stepped on a dog's balls, like that's what it sounded like. He just made it sound like, oh, like really like he was nauseous. And I'm sure the clip is online somewhere, but Joey Styles' reaction on commentary fit that segment so good that I saw it and I knew it was storyline, but I was like, oh my God, that should have won some type of award that year. It was that believable. You fooled so many people in the ECW, the fan base with that segment, man. If you've never seen it, go see it. I mean, all he did was literally just rock him back and forth. I mean, you probably could repeat it 1,000 times and put a dance tune to it, and it probably looks funny, but it was so good at the time, man. The Jerry Lawler incident on Raw was not a work. Legitimate heart attack. That snoring is the death snore. Trust me, that was not staged. There are people that I know, who have passed, and right before they pass, they just have this deep, deep, deep sleep, and they're snoring really loud, and they call it the death snore. Seriously, if you ever, and I'm only saying this, not trying to be morbid, I'm being serious for a minute. If you ever have like a loved one or somebody who, God forbid, has a health incident and they're unconscious and they start snoring. I mean, I watch a lot of the car chase videos on YouTube. Like I watch them more because I can't believe like these morons don't realize that they're going to be pitted by cops almost every time. But I watched one about a month ago where the guy got ejected, and you didn't see the ejection. You didn't see the guy because it was the dash cam from the car. They didn't show you the body worn camera, but you could hear the cop run up to the guy, and he's trying to like, dude, wake up, dude, wake up. And all you hear is this deep, deep, deep snore. And EMS came, and I think the guy ultimately died. But if you ever hear that deep snore after a health incident, that's no joke, man. Seriously. It's scary. I don't ever want to hear that with a family member of mine. But, that Jerry Lawler incident, I didn't know much about the death snore before the Lawler incident. When the Lawler incident happened and we covered it on the DTKC show and we started looking into it, we were like, holy fuck. That guy was this close of dying for real. Scary, man. No, I know you didn't mean any disrespect. There are people who thought it was storyline. You didn't do anything wrong. Not at all. But that is something. Let me put it this way. If any wrestling company ever did a storyline again where somebody fakes a heart attack, if they start doing the death snore in the storyline, if I'm somebody in the locker room, I'll punch them right in the fucking mouth when they bring them to the back. Man, you sold that well. Boom, right in the mouth. I would never go that far. I don't ever want to hear that in a storyline. I don't care what you do. Like, I don't care if you pile drive somebody and they're knocked unconscious, or I don't care what you do. You ever go that far, you probably lose me as a viewer. Gruss, says it hits home. He had recent heart failure. It's none to joke around with. I get scared with my mom because she's got the major heart issues, and I always think of really crazy shit. And sometimes it drives you nuts. My all-time favorite wrestling faction of all time, asked Tristan. See, I enjoyed the Four Horsemen, but I was a Northeast guy, so I was more WWF back then. I mean, DX was great. NWO, I don't know, man. I kind of lean towards NWO. As ridiculous as that may sound for some of you, the reason why I kind of lean towards NWO was because the storyline was so good that, people thought that it was really an invasion. I mean, I know, Hall and Nash had to reveal that they were not infiltrators, but there was a couple of people in it that I liked. Having Hogan turn for the first time since 79 or 80 as a heel, there was a lot of great shit at the time. And it was, listen, I bought the NWO shirt. I definitely checked out the NWO hotline. Probably the NWO. DX, I would choose a close second. I enjoyed Bloodline, but Bloodline feels more of just a one storyline. And the bloodline seems more of like, it's not bloodline versus another big faction. You know what I mean? It's like Roman took on someone else and the Usos took on someone else. It's not like where you had the Freebirds and the Von Erichs. So Left Twix is asking, how did Edge not get an erection dry humping Lita? Why don't you ask him? I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he did. I don't know. Couldn't answer that. Right to Censor was good. Freaking loved Right to Censor. That was like at the mid stages of the hotline. That was funny with that stuff. Stevie Richards picking up, like they could use a table in a match. Steven Richards, picks it up and runs away with the table. I loved it. Ivory, the Good Father. There was other members. Right to Censor was good. That was because of the parent-teacher council stuff at the time. That's why Attitude would never come back. You would have too many people in protest and triggered, and WWF should be grateful. WWF should be grateful at that time when they're feuding with like Phil Mushnick and the Parent-Teacher Council and other organizations. Thank God they didn't have Twitter at that time. Holy fuck. If they would do, even during the Attitude where people thought it was politically correct, trust me, parents hated it, news hated it. Social media would have killed WWE. Honestly, I think Attitude Era would have been hurt significantly if social media was around at that time. Yeah, I would consider the Heenan family a faction. It was a bunch of random guys put together. It was cool, but it's not one of my all-time favorites. There were so many factions over the years. There's many factions that I like, but probably NWO was probably the one that I got into the most. All right. Yeah, Benjamin, I think the buffering is just on your part because my stream is okay. It's been green the whole time. The audio thing, I don't know what happened before, but how long are we going? We're at 90 minutes, technically 88 if we take that audio glitch out of there. So we'll go a few more minutes. So don't forget, Monday night, Kevin and I will be live. That doesn't mean we're a supporter of Trump. I just felt like recycling this graphic. President Trump outlines details of alleged fraud in podcast voting. So I had to make it. I was bored this week. Do I consider the Pillman gun angle the official start of the Attitude Era? No. Nope. That was just an incident that was just stupid. And I was fine with it on TV. I was fine with it. I remember when Austin came out with a gun in storyline with Vince, like what, a year or 2 years later, but it was Bang 316. I just peed my pants. If anybody remembers that. That storyline, when he whipped out that gun, people thought it was real for a second until he hit the trigger and when, Bang came out. Richard Vargas, I did vote. I absolutely did vote. I just did not vote for the president because I just felt after 4 years, this is the best that we could offer this country. Let me say this just to get it out of the way. When we started the show right before or as we went live, who sent this? Ronnie sent this in. Ronnie, thank you for the 20 spot. He says, hi, DT. I know you and Kev already predicted a Trump landslide win. Now with the election over, what's my thoughts about the election? I'm really surprised how good Trump did with the Latinos and that he won the popular vote. All right. Let me just say this quickly, my thoughts about this election. And I hope everybody hears me out on this. I want the country to do well the next 4 years. There are people out there that want the country to fail miserably, so it ruins any legacy that Trump may get. When you put your dislike for Trump over country, there's something wrong with you, in my opinion. I did not vote for Trump. I have not been a supporter of Trump's for years. I didn't like the way the COVID situation was handled. I didn't like the environment. I felt that he should show more empathy towards others. Sometimes you gotta, listen, sometimes even when you're at odds with your parents, if something goes wrong in your life and there's a crisis, you want to know that your family is there for you. Even at bad times, you want to know your family's there for you. Sometimes you got to show empathy as a leader, even if deep down inside you really don't feel it, but you got to send the right signals. Those are some of the reasons why I didn't vote. But now, since he's been put in as president, I want to see him win, big in I want him to succeed in a lot of stuff that he wants to do. All right. But let me just say this briefly. And I want you to think about this, especially the fact that I did not vote for him or Kamala Harris. For months, I watched politicians call him a Nazi, a racist, a homophobe. It's going to take away women's rights. I saw some whack job on CNN say that her 12-year-old was crying after the election saying, what happens if I am sexually assaulted and I can't get a, what? Begins with the letter A. He's going to lock up his, political adversaries. And here's my take on this. Hillary never went to jail. I don't remember any of his political adversaries ever going to jail for his first 4 years. As far as abortion rights, I believe it's left up to the states. And the thing that upset me even more, why I wasn't voting for Kamala either, was I watched them, her, a vice president, their vice presidential candidate, Waltz, and others, call his supporters homophobes, Nazis, this is that. When you start loosely calling people you do not know a sexist, homophobe, a Nazi, you don't care about trans, you don't care about this, you don't care about that, simply because you think Trump will help the country economically, you're worse than what he's being accused of. Because, first of all, if you're going to call anybody a Nazi, you don't know anything about the 1930s, okay? And when I watched the wrestling world, if you're going to vote for Trump, unfollow me. I'm going to block you. Don't even talk to me. This is and that. I laughed, but it wasn't the laugh of comedy. I laughed that what's going to happen when they find out their favorite wrestler voted for Trump? What are you going to do then? And this is why this is ridiculous, okay? As soon as the election is over, President Biden announces he's going to have lunch with the Nazi on Wednesday, with the homophobe, with this. If you truly felt that guy was what you said he was, you have lunch? We're going to help the transition team as well. I mean, why? Because he won an election? Suddenly he's no longer these things? If I despise someone for some outrageously disgusting things, Nothing is going to make me want to have lunch, this and that. And when people say, oh, it's for the betterment of the country, you realize, truthfully, that the things that people have been telling many of you out there in the news world and YouTubers have lied to you, have exaggerated to you. Because when you look back 4 years ago or 8 years ago, all the things that he's being accused of, oh, yeah, the Proud Boys. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of very evil people out there that like Trump. There's a lot of very evil people there that like Kamala. There's a lot of very evil people there that love Obama. That doesn't mean that they are receptive to them. I'm not pro-Trump. I'm pro-country. And the thing is this, and my thoughts in the election is this, okay? And I want to show you why I believe politics are so much like wrestling. All right. Ronnie sent that in right before we went live. Let me take that off the screen for a minute. Okay. If you want to see tactics, okay, if anybody's followed the election, you know that Pennsylvania is probably the biggest reason why Trump ended up winning the office. There was swing states like Georgia, North Carolina, even Michigan to an extent. I did a Patreon show Tuesday night. I went off the air around midnight, and Michigan was not decided yet. I thought she was winning Michigan because she was winning big early on. It was the mail-in vote. But here's the thing. The day before the election, I'm going to show you a video thing right now. The day before the election, Trump was in Pennsylvania. And Kamala Harris had a few Twitter accounts for the campaign, and this was the official headquarters account for Kamala's Twitter. I want you to look at the screen. They posted this video the night before the election when Trump was in Pennsylvania. Watch this video close. It's only a few seconds. Watch this video closely. In this video, you will... Let's actually, hold on. Let me put it here. Yeah, look at this video. See all the empty seats? You hear Trump talking? Doesn't that look like what they do for like AEW events or WWE events? Look at the video one more time. They're showing a ton of empty seats, and you hear Trump talking, and they go on Twitter and say, right now, Trump is talking in front of a half of an empty building. Okay? Now, what you didn't know about that picture, that video, was that was 3 hours before the event started, and Trump's voice that you heard was them playing a campaign speech on a video from a previous place. This is the same building, the same night when Trump was there. And look what Trump did on his social media. Oh, wait, okay, here it is. Here, this is the same building, the same night. They did a 360-degree angle to show everyone that video is a lie. We see that for AEW events and WWE events. They were doing it on her Twitter account. I know no one likes to be wrong, especially when it's someone you do not like. But there's a lot of people out there who have been fed nothing but bullshit for months, if not years. And because they don't like the person, they convince themselves that everything that they were being told was true. What happened, why she lost the election and why Trump won the election is this. Everyday Americans felt that they were being talked down to. A lot of Americans felt that illegal immigrants, the nation cared more about them. People coming into New York, free cell phones, free hotel, free EBT cards, a whole bunch of cash. I've told you guys stories about 2 times, 2 illegals that crossed the border called me up for car insurance. And how I found out their status was one gave me an address that went back to a hotel, and the other one didn't have a social security number. And he was honest with me. He told me, he says, I came in from Guatemala. I'm not here with papers yet. And he wanted to know how I could get car insurance. I couldn't help him. But the point is this, a lot of people in this country felt that the government cared more about illegal immigrants. It cared more about trans, who cared more about other groups of people instead of everyday Americans. And the economy got bad, yes, because of COVID. Yes, because of COVID. COVID fucked everything up. But when the inflation went down from 9% to 2%, nothing went down in price. When you see people looting in different states, taking things and nothing happens to them, when you see all this stuff with homeless and everything else, and then you see other groups plus the celebrities. I wrote that on Twitter a month ago. I'm watching all these celebrities endorse Kamala. I don't take advice from any celebrity because they don't give a flying fuck about anybody every day. The bottom line is that party wanted you to vote for Kamala because Trump was evil. That's why. Kamala's biggest mistake, I don't watch The View, but I saw this clip 10 times. She went on The View, and everybody and their mother knows The View is absolutely against Trump. She went on The View, where every woman that watches that show loves her and is against Trump. And she was asked, is there anything in the last 4 years you would have done different than what President Biden did? And she said, nothing comes to mind. And immediately people were like, wait a minute. You got 14 million illegal immigrants crossing the border. You have what's going on in Afghanistan. You see what's going on in Israel and Palestine. You see what's going on with the economy. You see what's going on with crime and all that, and you wouldn't change anything. So people like, if she can't see anything wrong, why am I voting for her? People, I think it was Chris Cuomo that made this, and I don't like Chris Cuomo. But Chris Cuomo came up with a line that really struck me. Chris Cuomo said that they need to start caring about those who are broke than those who are woke. And that is so on point, that people felt that everyday Americans that were hurting, if you dare question her, you're a racist, you're against women. If you dare say, you know what, when Trump was president, I was doing so much better financially. Wait a minute. You would consider a racist, Nazi, homophobe? You're no better than him. So when you see plus Bad Bunny after the Madison Square Garden thing, he comes out the same day or the next day and says, I am endorsing Kamala Harris. And I have nothing against Bad Bunny, but he honestly thought that a whole bunch of Puerto Ricans would be like, yeah, fuck him after what happened with that comedian. But no, President Trump got 40% of the Latino vote. Why? Because Kamala Harris, and this is a problem too. I brought this up last Monday. Kamala Harris, after that dickhead in Madison Square Garden made all those jokes and made the remarks about Puerto Rico, a day later, Kamala Harris puts his big banner online and says, I have a plan to build and help Puerto Ricans, help improve their lives. And everybody was like, wait, you came out with that because of a comedian said stupid shit? Why didn't you talk about this a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago? So most Latinos were like, wait a minute. She hasn't told us anything. Name a couple of things that she would have done. Oh, she would have treated certain groups better. How? So that's why she lost. I don't watch Bill O'Reilly anymore. I don't like him. But he came up on my feed and I watched him and he said something that I do agree with him 100%. If Michelle Obama would have run for office, I think she would have beaten Trump. I think she would have beaten Trump for real. Not because just she's a woman or she's black, but I think in reflection, a lot of people feel that the Obama 8 years weren't as bad as Biden. And I think people would have thought that she would have done things different that Biden did. That's, I think, a legitimate argument. But the bottom line is this. Over the next 4 years, you're going to see protests. You're going to see people trying to start riots. You're going to see the media still trying to spin this. They're not going to suddenly love this guy. They're not going to suddenly root for this country. They want to see him fail. And they want to see him fail miserably. And we're all wrestling fans. Pay very close attention to the people in wrestling who said, anybody that votes for him, you are a Nazi, you are a racist, you hate women, you hate trans, you hate this. All those people that called you that, and they're supposed to be the good people. You know what's interesting? I swear to you, everybody that I know that voted for Trump, I don't know one person who is rubbing it in the face of people who voted for Kamala. Most of the reaction I see is, whew, thank God he's in office again. I don't see anybody rubbing it in. I went back 4 years ago on the podcasts when Biden was put in. And you know what I heard me saying, and Kev was saying this too, and a lot of you were saying it also? I hope he could get us out of COVID and unite this country better. Nobody ripped and wished all this horrible stuff on him. People were hoping that maybe he can help. I go back 8 years ago, and a lot of people didn't like Hillary. A lot of people didn't like her at all because of what's that country where I can't remember the country. Maybe somebody could refresh my memory. There was a lot of controversy with the Clinton Foundation. Someone will remember. Was it what? There was a country that had a major earthquake, and there was like billions of dollars sent there, and then a lot of it just went to like political pockets. I can't remember the country. Haiti. Thank you, AG. Haiti. A lot of people remember what happened in Haiti. And you think back, the bottom line is Kamala Harris, if you're being honest, did not give any solutions to the problems. All we kept hearing was, he's evil, he's evil, he's evil, he's evil, he's evil. He's going to ruin this country. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to jail all these people. And I kept going back 4 years, and I said, Hillary never got put in jail. I don't remember like women's rights being like taken away from this and that. It was left to the states. And if you have a problem with your local officials, you vote them out of office and you put other people in its place. Bringing power back to the states is not taking away rights. We have 50 plus states, and they're the ones that make certain decisions. Some states, you are freer to do this or this or this. So I just think that, just like wrestling, you hear bullshit, and sometimes you go to your sources because you want to get the answer to something. And unfortunately, most of the time, they'll play on your emotions, and they'll do whatever they can to make money off of it. And then when the truth comes out, they'll just say, oh, I wasn't the one that came up with that fake news. I was just reacting to it. And the same thing with these big YouTubers now that people have like believed everything that they said. Even with the bleach stuff with Trump, what he said was stupid, but he didn't say clearly, oh, everybody should inject themselves with bleach. I watched that clip again just to remind myself, because some of my friends in the wrestling world that kept bringing it up, I said, I got to watch that clip again. And what they were saying was disinfectant if you have a virus and a virus is on this piece of paper right now and you pour disinfectant on it, it kills the virus immediately. Ultraviolet light kills the virus immediately. So he said, too bad, we can't find something where you could inject or something that could kill it inside the person. That's what it was stupid the way it came out, but me with half a brain said to myself, he wasn't telling anybody to fucking take Clorox, and only a moron, brain dead. Dude, it works on cement. Dude, it works on my countertop. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I get COVID. Yeah, I fix it. Only somebody that's freaking high as a kite would do something like that. So the bottom line is, the people who claimed the worst about him and the people who claim that you are just as bad as him, they're doing the very thing that they're against. I mean, I'm not black, obviously, and I watched a lot of brown people on social media angry at Obama for Obama to pretty much say, hey, you don't vote for her, to my black brothers out there. They're like, wait a minute, you're doing exactly what you're accusing Trump of doing. You're telling people that you should vote for this person because they're black and they're a woman. You see what was trending on Twitter today? That Joe Biden should step aside and let Kamala Harris be the president for the last month so she could go on record as being the first woman president. They're offering ideas that's crazy. Imagine telling people, you need to vote for this person because they're black. You need to vote for this person because they're a woman. Isn't that what you're saying you're against? So again, there's a lot of people out there that were fed a steady load of bullshit for years, and they hate Trump, so they believe everything that they were told is true. Now the motherfucker got the popular vote. Here's one last thing in closing. If you want to amuse yourself, if you are bored, go look up how many electoral votes Kamala got. She got like two and change. And the popular vote, what did she get? 39 million or whatever it is? Take away New York and California. Just take away those two states and look at her numbers. It is crazy to think that much of a majority of this country wanted to see a Nazi, a dictator, a racist, homophobe, someone against trans in office. You take away New York and you take away California, it'll blow your mind. I was looking at particular states. There were some states where it was 60 or 70% black. They voted for Trump. There's some states that haven't voted Republican since the 1800s. I promise you this, for any of you out there, this is just me talking, but I promise you this. I want to see him succeed. I didn't vote for him because I didn't like either choice for this election. But I'll say this. See what happens over the next 4 years. And if you truly, truly are looking out for yourself and for the country, see if what these people were telling you would happen if it happens. If he does take away women's rights, if he does try to put people in jail, if he does go against this, if he does go against that, see what happens. And if it ends up being true, then yeah, everybody has every right to, in 4 years to put it this way. This country is not going to allow any president to be a dictator. Nobody in this country is going to allow anybody to take away women's rights and set them back 60 years. No one in this country is going to allow any president to take away women's rights or black rights and go back to the days that people tease in slavery. And we wouldn't allow it. Wouldn't allow it. They would impeach him. His own government, the House and the Senate, would turn against him. Everybody wants to keep their power. That's what this is about. It's about power. So that's really all I have to say. It's just there's going to be a lot of misinformation that will continue. But I'm still blown away that the people who despised him the most in government are now, I'm going to have lunch with him. I was on the phone with him, and I'm going to do everything I can to make a good transition. Yeah, make it as smooth as possible for the Nazi. How does that make sense? Tell me, in what bizarre world does that make sense? For everyday Americans, they look at their paycheck. They look at food prices, clothes prices, gas prices, utilities, insurance. Nobody talks about it. Insurance is up 40%. Insurance is up 40%. You're making the same amount of money. When they turn around and, we made minimum wage $20. Oh, by the way, I got fired because my boss can't afford to pay me anymore. Oh, I went to McDonald's and now I got to pay $12 for a quarter pounder with cheese. I know I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you see my point? I'd rather make $12 an hour and go to the store and buy something for $10 than make $20 an hour and go to a store and pay $24 for it. In the end, I'm down more money than I have before. So there's a lot of misinformation. If you got too much of an ego to admit publicly, I was fucked up. I shouldn't have labeled everybody, this, and that simply because they vote for him. Maybe they do. Listen, I know this sounds cold, but for everyday Americans, they care about raising their family and paying the bills than for a guy who's now a girl winning a trophy or a tournament, or somebody crossing the border because they're looking for a better life. You know how many people that I know who stupidly says, I should change my last name to Lopez and call myself a legal immigrant. I have a fucking free iPhone. I get free food. I can fucking go wherever the fuck I want and I get it for free. It's stupid that people say that. But when you have people in the tens of millions that feel you care more about, others than everyday Americans, and simply because they think that your ideas are not good, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're this, you're this, of course they're not going to vote for you. Celebrity endorsements no longer work. Oprah no longer is influential. A lot of everyday folks that are struggling big time see all these millionaires and billionaires, and they're like, fuck you, man. Now you got performers that are threatening that they're only going to perform in states that voted for Kamala. They're proving that they're the whack jobs. They're the whack jobs. All right, you voted for Trump. Now I'm going to take it out on you. Now I'm going to try. Remember what I said last Monday with Kev about Peanut the squirrel? Why did they do that? Because they wanted to create this pain that'll never leave that couple ever again. They just did the hatred. They wanted to create this pain that you could never take away from them. It's good. They're going to live with that for the rest of their lives. Anybody see Tyrus? The former wrestler? He was on Gutfeld about a week ago, and he told the story about his two dogs. I never heard this story before, but it's pretty powerful. And I want you to see what I mean about whack jobs out there. And sorry, no DQ. I got to go there. No DQ, the wrestling news site. Yeah, we're going to talk about something wrestling in a second. When Tyrus was talking the story about Peanut the squirrel and Fred the raccoon, Tyrus was telling a story about a guy that was going to that was trying to break into his house. And Tyrus had two dogs. One of the dogs, they were both in the yard, but one of the dogs grabbed the guy by the ass when he was trying to go through the window and wouldn't let go. So Tyrus called the cops and they arrested the guy. And because the dog viciously attacked the guy trying to break into the house, they took the dogs. And he had to go to court to get the dogs back. And he says that when they took the dogs, they were very cool with Tyrus. And Tyrus said, listen, please don't separate them because the two dogs have been together their whole lives and they have separation anxiety, and please just keep them together. So he said, yeah, no problem, no problem. So he goes to the court and the court awards that he could get his dogs back. And the day that he's supposed to get the dogs back, they put the dogs to sleep. And when he tried to find out why, they tried to separate the two dogs, and one of the dogs bit one of the people that was holding them. So they put the dogs to sleep. Like the dogs got upset and they started attacking, so they put both dogs down. I mean, how fucked up is that story? So you want to know what's even worse? Go on No DQ's Twitter right now. I have the screenshot. I'm going to show it to everybody tomorrow on the show. And I am not, listen, I have nothing against No DQ. I actually follow them. They follow me. I usually get along with them, but this pissed me off. A day after that story surfaces about Tyrus and his two dogs, the story, they go on Twitter tonight and they post that Tyrus said that if he'll slap his kids, if either one of them uses any pronouns other than he or she or whatever it is. And they also report that a former WWE wrestler threatened to slap Tyrus or something like that for saying that. Okay. Listen, you disagree with Tyrus about, pronouns, that's fine. Here's the problem with it. The story that they're talking about came out in August of last year. The wrestler they were talking about was Lance Storm. Lance Storm's comments about Tyrus was in August of 2023. That was their comeback of Tyrus this week for being pro-Trump. Let's post the story that's over a year old to make people believe that it is now. Go look on Twitter. That's just what we're dealing with here. And that's a bullshit thing. There are people out there that I'll be very, very miserable and angry. And they're going to take it out on you if you voted or support Trump publicly. You don't need those people in your life. It ain't worth it. I have relatives that I don't talk to as much anymore because they are so radical with their political views. I don't dislike them. I still mingle with them at parties, but I don't talk to them online anymore because I don't want to get caught up into that fighting back and forth. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. All right. So let's start bringing this home. I did not see the story about the police officer that killed the blind death dog. I don't know anything about it. I'll go look it up. But if the dog was going after a cop, or a person, yeah, if you're in fear, you might have to do something extreme. I don't know the story behind it. I don't know. I hope it's a news story and not something from years ago. There's too many awful stories about people treating animals wrong. And I have nothing against people who legally hunt, but I could never do it myself. Could never ever go hunting. My father used to go hunting when I was a kid and, never ever went with him. Could never ever, he caught a deer once in a while when I was, before 10 years old. And, I just never could. No, I cried. Could never do that. No. Bash says the dog was the size of a cat. Raccoons are the size of a cat. You don't know. I don't know. Listen, I'm pro cops, and what I'm hoping more than anything if you want a little of my personal feelings about Trump being president right now, I hope the borders are sealed. I hope there's no more illegal immigration. I hope that those who came in this country illegally, I don't think there should be a pathway to citizenship immediately. But I also believe that you're not going to be able to just scoop up random people who are illegal and just deport them back. I think what you have to do is, if anybody is arrested for any type of crimes, or they find out that, I listen, I think in these foreign countries, they have to have jail records. They have to have information, fingerprints. They don't live like Flintstones. They probably have fingerprints and everything else. And I think what needs to happen is these countries need to share with our country the records of, people who came to this country illegally. And then if their fingerprints match something where, they committed a terrible crime overseas, pick them up and send them back. But for those who came here with families, they're here already. You know what I mean? So what are you going to do? Rip them out of a house and send them back? I was joking earlier, and I can't do this now, but I was going to open up the show tonight very upset. And the reason being is because what a lot of you don't know is that my wife's mother is here illegally. She's here illegally from Ecuador. And she's 84 years old. So, the last thing I want to see is law enforcement, because Trump is president, to go to her house and pick her up and deport her. I mean, her mother's 84 years old. She's a little bit of a pain in the ass. She gave nothing to help us with the wedding. The last thing I want is for someone to go to 194-45 108th Street, second floor. If they see the security code, press 9412, enter. Go there anytime except for 8 to 9 a.m. because that's when she takes a shower. The last thing I want them to do is call her house at 929-412-1276 and take her and send her back. I don't want to see that happen to her. Seriously. She's got a nice little red house with a couple of flower pots. It says beware of dog on the front, but it's a dog that's 17 years old and he can't even see anymore. I think I want ICE to pick her up. Seriously. I mean, really. I mean, even if that code doesn't work, I mean, I know 1, 2, 3, 4 works, but it's fake. It's fake. I saw somebody do that online and I couldn't stop laughing. My wife's mother is not illegal. She's been in this country. She's an American. She's been in this country, I think like 65 years. But I was going to do that at the beginning of the show. I was going to do that little skit, but I forgot. We had audio problems, so I would have been here and been like, people would have been like, I can't hear you. Can't hear you. So there is some funny people doing that online. Like, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. Anyway, listen, I promise you this. Mistake that I made 8 years ago, 12 years ago on these shows was talking a lot of politics. We used to talk a lot about Obama. We talked a lot about Trump. I realized that a lot of you out there go to these shows and the last thing you want to hear is politics. 4 years ago, when Biden became president, I promised you all we're going to keep politics off the show. unless something really big happens. And we'll talk about it. But now with the election over, and I gave you my overall thoughts about it, we move on. One wrestling thing I do want to say about this election is this. Anyone out there that tries to tell you that because Linda McMahon is like running his transition team, or she's like the second in charge. Linda McMahon's already in a high position. Anyone out there that's a journalist in the wrestling news world that teases that Donald Trump is going to pardon Vince McMahon is pretty much just saying to you, I hate Trump and I also hate Vince. So I'm going to say that because I want to try to convince you that Trump would dare forgive, what Vince has done over it. It's not going to happen, guys. Donald Trump will pardon somebody who is spending 20 years in jail because of 3 marijuana violations. He ain't going to pardon Vince McMahon. It's stupid to even entertain that. But morons will do that because, oh my God, he's so crazy. He'll pardon his friends, even their abusers. And look, there's a picture of him with Epstein. So he had to know all that stuff. You got to stay away from those people, man. Seriously, because they'll just fuck with your brain, man. Seriously. It's like when you drive down the street now and you don't smoke it, but if your windows are down, you're like, oh shit, my whole car smells like weed. Like you keep your windows down and you drive around long enough, you're going to smell like weed. Just don't let any of that toxicity in your life. Stay away from them. You might see a couple of hundred, if not 1,000 people talking about it, and it might be tempting to be part of that conversation. That's what a lot of people do. They write stupid shit just to have conversation. I think the new bloodline is going to win Survivor Series. I think Rikishi's right. I think Solo should beat Cody Rhodes. And you're sitting there like, you fucking retarded? What the fuck's wrong with you? And then I'm like, oh, I get it. Engagement farming. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. There's too many people doing that stuff. Like I said, look at the Malachi stuff, Black stuff from this past week. And you just see that's how desperate people are. They're fans of Malachi Black. They wouldn't have done that to him. Hey, do you guys notice Mark Shapiro of TKO did an interview with CNBC and he revealed that he had breakfast with Vince lately? And, he talked about how Vince is not involved with WWE at all anymore. And he said Vince is dealing with some legal problems right now. He's got some legal stuff going on. And I was like, oh, really? Just downplaying sexual abuses. Oh, he's got some legal stuff going on. Have you noticed that Janelle Grant's lawyers and the Ring Boy lawyers didn't have the balls to call out Mark Shapiro? Sir, with all due respect, this is much more than just legal stuff going on. He's abused and let others abuse women and children. You know why none of them open their fucking mouths? Because they're afraid that Mark Shapiro and TKO might sue their asses for dumb shit. They kept quiet. Don't worry. WrestleNomics will squeeze an interview out of one of them soon because that gets good views. Nothing against them personally, but you mark my words. Take note of that. Wow. They didn't address Mark Shapiro? Yeah. Because Mark Shapiro will fight back. Did I say Jacob? Oh, no. Oh, yeah. No. YouTube Ag says Jacob Fatu will be a single star before Solo. Singles champion before Solo. Oh, yeah. Jacob Fatu is over. I'm telling you, my co-host is not bought in yet with Jacob Fatu. I see it. I see it with Jacob Fatu. There's something about him. What's interesting is it kind of gives me Umaga vibes a little bit. When Umaga God rest his soul, towards the latter part of his run. Listen, when he started talking to CM Punk, I was like, God, I didn't want Umaga to start talking, but Jacob Fatu's talked from the beginning. So it's not like Jacob Fatu don't speak English. Umaga, we thought there was some language we'd never heard of before. Like Umaga then starts talking about CM Punk. Jacob Fatu reminds me of Umaga, but towards the latter part of Umaga's run, fans started buying in for Umaga, and they thought it was badass. And I think fans are going to get behind Jacob Fatu. I could see it already. I'm telling you, remember this, there's going to be a day where Jacob Fatu is going to be a babyface, and he's going to come down to the ring, and the thing that everybody's going to do is this. He's going to walk down the ringside. It's going to happen soon. He doesn't have to turn babyface today. He's going to go down the ringside, and everybody and their mother's going to do this to him. That guy's going to be a future babyface, big. Benjamin's like, wow, DT, I could see it now. I'm telling you, give it a little time. You will see everybody at ringside doing it. They'll pan the crowd. People will be like this. Just remember who told you first. And it's going to be cool, too. In fact, I think WWE will come out with a T-shirt. WWE will come out. I don't think they'll just come out with their hands, because that would look kind of goofy. I think they'll come out with one with Jacob Fatu, like that. All right. So let's wrap this up in 10 minutes. So we'll be at 2.5 hours. I have to, on the replay, I'll edit the first 2 minutes. I'll edit those 2 minutes out. I don't know what happened earlier. My apologies, but I absolutely will uninstall Microsoft Edge. See, I closed the Edge programs before. No issues since. Who's that? Pacmer? Good night to you, my friend, as well. Big shout out to everybody who's live, by the way. Big shout out to you, whether you live in the States or abroad. It's very appreciative that you guys spend a little bit of your Sunday, for some of you even Monday already, and very much appreciated. Oosh says they should use the generic praying hands tattoo. Millions of people get Jacob Fatu even more. It's funny. I still have a bunch of these on my desk. Still have a bunch of these. These are from the AEW. I still have about 10 of them. Remember I put one on my face one time? Did I put it on my face or my neck? No, I did put it on my face to be stupid. And it didn't work well because I had like 5 o'clock shadow. So like hair was like coming out from all the stars. Didn't look good. But they should come out with some tattoos and stuff. Listen, they should come out with the big foam hands. Seriously, they should come out with a big foam hand that you put both hands in there and it's this. Hey, I was the one. I'm not joking. There's proof to back me up. Back in the day after Boogeyman debuted in WWE with the Worms, I came on the DTKC show. I said, if I'm WWE, I fucking put on sale gummy worms immediately for all of those kids that were tuning in because of Cena. So you put fucking gummy worms on sale. Let them all, no. Everybody's like, no, you don't want kids to pretend like they're eating worms. Talking about it's candy. Should have came out with Boogeyman gummy worms. They would have made a killing off that. They didn't do it. Benjamin, could Jacob Fatu sue the dirt sheets or Reddit post for the charity story? No, he can't. He just was like, fuck you to the people online. Even that story. I'm not tooting my own horn, but you guys know already. I don't even need to say it. You know what I'm going to say. Last Monday, Kevin and I covered it. We were the only show that said something isn't adding up. Kev is like, why would he leave that out there? He signed with WWE. It's such a small amount of money. Get that fucking shit taken care of. Well, guess what? He did. He took care of it in May. He took care of it when he first joined WWE, if not right before it. And not only that, last Monday I said, why is everybody believing a guy on Reddit who admits that his wife or his girlfriend doesn't work for the charity anymore? The fuck you know what's going on? You admit that your wife or girlfriend doesn't work for the charity anymore. As far as I know, he didn't pay it. That's all you needed to do. Now you have the entire fucking net, run with it. Guess what, asshole? You were wrong. And you didn't apologize. And even the charity, if you really want to split hairs here, the charity was like, oh, it was an oversight. The charity didn't respond right away. How long did it simmer online before the charity says, you know what, he did take care of it in May? You think that it was an oversight? There's like 5 people working there. Suddenly, the entire wrestling world knows about Jake's diapers. You don't think those 5 people for the last 3 weeks weren't talking like, holy shit, look how much press we're getting. Look how much publicity we're getting. Holy shit, this is awesome. And none of those 5 were like, hey, I remember back in May, he gave us the money. You remember he apologized to all of us. He said, I love diapers. I love you, Jake. No, none of the 5 told each other, hey, he did call back in May. He paid us. They stood radio silent for 3 fucking weeks. And they're like, oh, it was an oversight. I didn't see no apology from them. Even though we do not, take away the fact that Jacob Fatu didn't reimburse us for a year, we also apologize that we should have addressed this the same day that this story came out. It's fucked up, man. And let me tell you something. I'm not saying this to be cool, but Kevin and I are friends with some people that work for WWE. And I know for a fact that some things that we say and take the safe approach with it, gets back to some people. Even the Raquel Rodriguez stuff from months ago, when we talked about the disease and a whole bunch of other stuff and we got into it, we got back in appreciation because no one else is getting that deep into it, try to understand what's going on. So, I'm not saying that, I don't think Jacob Fatu tunes into wrestling podcasts. Let's make that clear. But, word does get around to these wrestlers. They know who's talking shit about them. They know who, is, just clickbaiting. They know who the people are out there, and they know the people who support them too. So, and trust me, Kevin and I never, ever take the safe approach to just try to win brownie points with people. We just feel, you know what? If it doesn't, something seems off, like even the Odyssey Jones thing. Remember that? Something doesn't make sense. Remember that night? I wonder if WWE found out something about him that they didn't know about and they fired him because of it. And that's exactly what happened. Sometimes, that phrase, I don't want to be first, I want to be right. That is so critical with some of these stories. If you just wait a few days, the truth comes out and then but a lot of people don't do that. So where's Shotzi? Shotzi is very close to returning. Shotzi was featured on the Halloween stuff. She is nearing a return. They just trademarked her name, so they're planning on keeping her around for a while. And Shotzi is very well liked. I mean, I know some people say, well, so was Indy Hartwell. Shotzi, they're definitely keeping around for a little while. She'll be back soon. If I'm WWE, bring her back in the Royal Rumble. There's really no reason to bring her back sooner. She's not going to get an immediate push. Bring her back in the Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble's only 2 months away. Jeff, the reason why they fired Odyssey Jones was because they found out some personal issues with Odyssey Jones. As far as Kevin and I could find, nothing was criminal, but Odyssey Jones was accused of some abuse and some things. We don't know exactly against who or what he actually did, but WWE found out some things that Odyssey Jones did not originally tell them, and as a result, he was terminated. That's the story coming from WWE. And the funny thing is, one day Odyssey Jones may come out and tell a whole different story, because no one in the WWE is going to say, you're a liar. Tell them the truth. Listen, I've always said this, and this is why common sense is so important, especially when you cover stories. If you're Odyssey Jones, any of you, I don't care if you're a 110-pound white scrawny kid, if you're Odyssey Jones and the entire net is accusing you of abuse on a girlfriend or wife or something like that, and you get fired, and that's not the reason, and you didn't abuse nobody, are you going to leave it on social media for 6 months and let it develop and become instilled in history? Google searches 20 years from now? Or are you going to come up the next day and say, listen, guys, I don't want to talk about what happened, but I didn't do what y'all are saying. Anybody accuses somebody of something outrageous, human instinct, you go online and say, listen, guys, you're wrong. Cut it out. Stop. When people leave shit up there for months, if not years, and then later on say, oh, no, that never happened. Well, what kind of dopey fuck are you to let it become a wiki thing? Now you file for a job for McDonald's or Staples or Office Depot or gas station or Hewlett Packard or wrestling company. Now, when they do a little bit of a background search, hey, Odyssey, it's all this shit I see online. Nah, that never happened. Why didn't you say anything? Look, I see posts from 20 years ago. Look, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Look, World Culture talked about it. Look, I see this right now, the top 10 fuck-ups in the history of wrestling. You're right on there. You're number 6. Why didn't you say anything? Why not? Why not? So believe me, when something ridiculous comes out like that, serious, and you say nothing, chances are you did it. Common sense. Common sense. You go out immediately. Listen, fuck you. I didn't do that. Stop saying it. Now that guy's history is forever tarnished for that bullshit. All right. I think Omos will be back soon. And with that, I am out of here. So, one final plug. Doesn't mean we're endorsing Trump. If Kamala Harris was the winner, we would have done a graphic with Kamala. Just playing off on voter. Oh, I do want to say one last thing. I do want to say one thing against Trump in closing. And this has to do with voter fraud. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like 15 million less people voted for Kamala than they voted for Biden. And people are like, wait a minute. When you look online, there's plenty of pictures online. If you look at the presidents over the last, 12, 16 years, you look at the graphs and you'll see Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. You look at Biden and it looks insane. It almost looks like a diabetic who just ate like jelly beans. Literally, the line is like this. So when you see Biden, it's like that with the number of votes. So anybody, even on the Republican side, anybody now saying, look at how many people voted. If you wanted proof of voter fraud, now you have it. I'm going to say this, and this is what I honestly believe. Even though almost 20 million less people voted now compared to 4 years ago. I believe that's real. I told you last week, I believe voter fraud was not stuffing ballots. I think voter fraud was, let's put out bullshit, piss off a whole bunch of people. Hey, listen, you got a ballot in your mailbox, vote. And because of COVID, I think millions and millions of people, because it was in their mailbox, voted. I honestly believe that. People were, because of COVID, you had, in many places, you pretty much thought that was your only choice of voting is by mail. So I do believe that many more people voted by mail 4 years ago because of what was going on with COVID at the time. I remember people that haven't voted in ages that voted by mail. So I do believe that number from 4 years ago is real. Does that mean that Joe Biden is the most popular president of all time voting-wise? No. He's the one with the most votes by far. That doesn't mean anything. It's just at the time with COVID, listen, if tomorrow, if I go 10 blocks up in front of my house, go 10 blocks up, and in front of everybody's door, I don't know, I leave a dozen donuts. I ring the bell, I leave a dozen donuts, and I leave. And the donuts are sealed, and I put from me or whatever. Chances are almost every single person that opens the door is going to take the donuts. Now, some of them be like, I don't trust that fat fuck, and they'll just throw it in the garbage. But if I say compliments from the deli, most people, almost every single person is going to take those donuts and bring it in the house. And almost every single one of them eat it. So when you have everybody in their mailbox, oh, look, honey, there's a ballot. Yeah, send it in. That's what happened for a lot of people. A lot of people. They mailed their ballots in. It wasn't lazy voting. It was COVID. It was COVID. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. Much love. Much love. I'm going to jet. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Once again, Kevin and I will be live tomorrow night after Raw at 10:15 p.m. Of course, we'll have some combined thoughts about the election. It will only be about 5 or 10 minutes of talk. And we'll probably save it towards the end of the show. This way, if anybody wants to disconnect, they Ripley's injury. We caught Ripley's injury. Bobby Allerman, welcome to the family, Bobby. Oh, no, BJ. I just looked at it. I was like, wait, Bobby just turned into BJ. BJ Allerman, welcome to the family. Rhea Ripley has this broken orbital socket. She's not an invalid. Show up at Raw with a mask on. Does she show up and cause Raquel and Liv to lose that match? Do we see something happen with Damage Control? Because remember, Io Sky is going to be facing Liv Morgan for the championship soon. So something interesting should go down tomorrow night. But I'm going to jet. Much love, everybody. Hopefully I'll catch you tomorrow after Raw. And then we have the whole week with news, and Tuesday's Patreon will be an off-the-cuff episode. So we'll have some definitely random stuff to talk about there. I'm sure a lot of people are going to have some feedback of what went down last week. So we'll get into that as well. Oh, shit. Man, I owe an apology to somebody. I'll post it in the community section on YouTube after the show's over. I should have did this right at the beginning of the show, but we got sidetracked because of the audio issues. Congratulations to Chris S. Chris S., who is one of our channel members. He won the Crown Jewel predictions contest. He got 15 points out of, I think, 20. So Chris S. wins the 50. So Chris, if you hear this, I will definitely post something in the community section, because I don't think it's fair that you have to listen to 2 hours and 35 minutes of a show to find out that you won. So But I wanted to publicly announce it here. Oh, he's here live. All right. You saved me some time, Chris. So, Chris, just reach out to me. DM, email, dontony@dontony.com, or if you're Twitter, DM me on Twitter. That's probably the easiest. And let me know how you want it. Amazon e-gift card, AEW e-gift card, WWE e-gift card, or PayPal. Those are the 4 choices. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend. For those that don't like politics, I apologize for talking about it today, but it's obviously a story that needed to be discussed. And no matter which side you vote on, remember that 40 million people voted for somebody to be president that is in office. That doesn't mean we have 40 million racist Nazis. Different people voted for different reasons. And I don't think almost any of them did it because they hate this country. They did it because they think that Donald Trump is the best chance of making their lives a little bit easier. Whether it's financial, whether it's crime, whether it's immigration, whatever the reasons are. Everybody's different. But, I do like what Joe Biden said a couple of days ago. Isn't it amazing that Joe Biden seemed perfectly fine? But he did say, you don't love this country simply because you win. And that's so true. You don't love something simply because you win. You love it because you love it. On the flip side, though, again, him inviting Trump to the White House Wednesday after everything that's been set up to the election is a little bit strange. If I truly feel that somebody is that evil, I don't care what they win. I don't care if I had a daughter and that person married my daughter. If I despise that person, sorry, listen, I know I'm breaking tradition, but hey, this guy is what I believe it is, and I cannot welcome that to the White House. Sorry. If I'm hated for it, if I'm go down in history, at least I stuck with my feelings. Yeah, it might divide people, but hey, I don't think anybody should warm up to a Nazi because he's going to make our lives better. That's why you realize, wow, suddenly some people forgot how evil this person is. That's when you know anything for votes. That's just what it is on both sides. Be well, everybody. Catch you all again soon. Bye.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.